Russia's Putin meets Cuban FM, says U.S. restrictions unacceptable. Meeting comes as White House says it wants to see dramatic changes very soon in Cuba, calls government failing. Russian President Vladimir Putin has slammed new restrictions imposed by the United States on Cuba as unacceptable, as he met Cuban Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez in the Kremlin, Russian state news agencies reported. This is a special period, with new sanctions, Putin said on Wednesday, according to Russian state-owned news agency TASS. You know how we feel about this. We do not accept anything like this. In separate talks with Rodriguez, Russian Foreign Minister Sergey Lavrov said Moscow is urging the U.S. not to impose a full naval blockade on the island, advocating negotiations instead. Lavrov called on Washington to show sound judgment and a responsible approach, and refrain from plans to impose a naval blockade on Cuba, according to TASS. He also said Moscow categorically rejects that cooperation between Russia and Cuba may be seen to pose a threat to the U.S. or other countries. Rodriguez expressed concern about Washington's actions, which he said threatened the sovereignty of all countries. Cuba will continue to resolutely move forward in protecting its independence and sovereignty, and seek solutions for its economy, he added, according to TASS. Rodriguez also said Havana would always be ready for a respectful dialogue on equal terms with any country and honor its agreements with Moscow, despite the difficulties. The island nation of 11 million is staggering under the yoke of major fuel shortages after U.S. President Donald Trump signed an executive order on January 29 authorizing the imposition of trade tariffs on imports of oil from third countries to Cuba. United Nations experts have condemned the move, describing it as unilateral economic coercion with extraterritorial effects. The White House said on Wednesday it is in Cuba's best interest to make significant changes soon, but stopped short of calling for a change in government leadership there. They are a regime that is falling. Their country is collapsing, and that's why we believe it's in their best interest to make very dramatic changes very soon, White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt told reporters. Dmitry Peskov, Putin's spokesman, was quoted by TASS as saying that Moscow did not discuss the Cuba issue with Washington during trilateral peace talks in Geneva earlier on Wednesday. He insisted that Russia values its relations with Cuba and intends to further develop them, of course, during difficult times, by providing appropriate assistance to our friends. Asked whether sending fuel to Cuba could derail a recent warming of ties with Washington, Peskov responded, "We don't think these issues are linked." Venezuela, one of Cuba's main oil suppliers, stopped selling crude to the island in January after the U.S. captured then-President Nicolas Maduro in a pre-dawn raid and flew him to New York to face drug trafficking charges. Mexico also cut off oil shipments to Cuba in January, after Trump threatened to impose tariffs. You have reached the end of our in-depth report. For more deep dives into global affairs and breaking news updates, please subscribe to Neuron News Global and enable all notifications. Stay informed, stay ahead. See you in the next broadcast.